Well, good morning. Good morning. Welcome everybody, and thanks for attending this meeting today. My name is Luis Paulino. I'm president and member of Adoprosoft. Adoprosoft, we are a community of that got together so many software developer company in Dominican Republic. But today as you know, we have a wonderful topic about software observability. Uh, we will see not only how we how to measure the performance of our application, but to know what is going on in the servers, in the cloud, in the microservices, um, and Dockers, and databases, and so on. So it's very interesting and the topic that we want to see today. But the way I don't know if you realized yesterday what was going on with Amazon Web Services, AWS. There was a blackout, and so many apps were down or not working properly, as application as Netflix, Snapchat, even Fortnite and Roblox game application got a problem. So I think they have some kind of DNS problems, a problem of latency. But the most beautiful part of this is that they have some kind of dashboard that show us what's going on, what the trends,
Eh,
what are the PKI, and so on. This
es-
is a very good experience. So let me introduce you, but please, I will ask you first to turn on your camera, please, in order that show your face and to see your face to our visitors and speakers. Uh, I will say it in Spanish right now, this introduction. Le quería decir bienvenido a todos. Mi nombre es Luis Paulino, soy miembro y presidente de Adoprosoft, que somos toda una comunidad y una asociación de empresas desarrolladoras de software en nuestro país de República Dominicana. Hoy, como les decía, tenemos un tema muy fascinante acerca de la observabilidad del software, que tiene que ver con toda la parte de las métricas, de las ejecuciones de las aplicaciones, cómo se comportan en los servidores, cómo se comportan los microservicios, temas precisamente de latencia, temas de performance de las aplicaciones que desarrollamos. Así que tenemos unos espectaculares expositores en el día de hoy. Y bueno, pues le hacía mención de lo que ocurrió en el día de ayer con Amazon AWS y muchas aplicaciones que tuvieron problemas. Al final detectaron que era un problema de latencia, un problema de negación de servicios en los DNS. Y qué bueno que ellos tienen todo un dashboard para tú visualizar y revisar esos indicadores y qué estaba ocurriendo en gran parte geográfica. Creo que todo ocurrió en toda la parte de central, en New York o del este. Pero lo interesante es que ese es el tema que precisamente vamos a ver en el día de hoy. Así que let me introduce you to our speaker. I'm really glad to present to you our speaker. They are coming from the Florida Atlantic University. So first of all, Professor Wayne Arlando Cole, he's the team manager of Next Era Energy. Pablo Larancuent, he's an IT architect of Next Era Energy as well. Um, Rahab Bitra, he's AI and observability of the Florida Atlantic University. So please, as I told you, enciendan sus cámaras acabo de presentar a los expositores que nos van a dar la charla en el día de hoy. Como les mencioné, el profesor Wayne Arlando Paul, que es un administrador de infraestructura. Pablo Larancuent, que también es un arquitecto de infraestructura de la compañía NextEra Energy. Y Ram Bitra, que es de inteligencia artificial y de todo el tema de software de observabilidad. Así que de la Universidad de la Florida. Así que sean todos bienvenidos y vamos a pasarle a darle la palabra a los conferencistas para que inicien la charla. Welcome. Thank you again. Who's gonna be the first that gonna speak?
So I'll talk first. This is Wayne.
Go on. Go ahead.
All right, can you change this? Thank you so much. All right, so I first want to thank you for this opportunity to present. I want to say, like, si tú tienes una pregunta en español, puedes preguntarle y Pablo puede contestar en inglés. So, like, or if you have a question in Jamaican patois, I can also answer it as well. And then Ram with me can also answer questions in Telugu. All right, so a little about me. So originally from Jamaica, in my previous job, I worked a lot with Santo Domingo. The job before that, I worked a lot with Santiago. Last minute, I invited some of my friends from my previous job. I do see that one of them was able to join. So Julio, thank you for joining. He's joining from Santo Domingo. I'm very excited about connecting. As I mentioned before, I would love to do something like this in Jamaica. It's very much needed. So in my current position here at Nextera, I am responsible for observability from an application perspective. However, it's when you're looking at things from an application perspective, it's also important that you consider the infrastructure as well. So all of those different components help to support your application. I am also a professor at Florida Atlantic University, and I really try hard to make it not just theoretical, but draw on my professional experience and ensure that with students as well. So thank you again for this opportunity. Pablo, can you introduce yourself as well, please?
Yes, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Buenos días. Yo soy de allá, de la República Dominicana. Nací acá en Estados Unidos, pero mis padres son de allá y viví un tiempo en República Dominicana. Vine para acá en el 2002 y bueno, el resto es historia. Trabajo aquí en la compañía NextEra Energy, que es una compañía, una de las más grandes en cuanto a power generation y en el tema de renewable, que es bien grande ahora mismo. Y he estado bien enfocado primeramente en las redes de comunicaciones, dándole soporte al network, haciendo implementaciones de transformar el data centers, responsable también por la parte de observabilidad, que se compresa de monitorear todos los componentes de la red de comunicación. En cuanto a los switches, los routers, los servidores, ahora estamos también en una parte del cloud, so tener presencia en esa parte es bien importante. Tengo ya en la compañía 12 años y nada, me alegro que estamos aquí haciendo esta presentación y compartiendo y cambiando información.
All right, thank you, Pablo.
Wayne asked me to do it in Spanish, so I always try my best to deliver that.
You deliver.
It's just very when you start studying something in English and doing that translation is almost like it gets difficult, but I try.
You represented well. You did well.
Hi everyone, good morning. Myself Raja, and I'm an AI and Observability intern at Florida Atlantic University. So my work primarily focuses on observability and implementing AI techniques to improve systems performance. And it's my pleasure to present alongside with Professor Wayne Cole and Mr. Pablo. And thank you for this opportunity. Yeah.
All right, great. So let's move on to so first we're going to start off with an activity here to help to really understand the difference between monitoring and observability. So I'm going to show you a dashboard, and I'm going to ask, especially the people that don't have their cameras on, I'm going to ask you directly to let me know, looking at this dashboard, I'm going to give it about a minute. Please tell me the root cause of this issue from looking at this dashboard and what it's impacting. I'm going to give it about a minute and then ask for you to help answer those two questions. What is being impacted from Starline Bank, and then what is the root cause?
Hola, me habías llamado anoche.
Ah, sí,
¿Qué pasó?
sí que se enoja.
All right. So time. So any volunteers before I call in anyone to let me know what the root cause is and what we're impacting? All right, Ariel has an answer there. It looks like under control, all indicators. Anyone else have an answer? Ronell, or Pamela, any thoughts to share? All right. So the true answer is, from looking at this dashboard, it's really hard to understand how Starling Bank is impacted from a business perspective. You see monitors, we're monitoring stuff here, and some of it's in red, but in terms of understanding the impact of Starling Bank, it's very difficult to say. So we're going to show you another dashboard and ask the same question. So just imagine you have these two dashboards here, and I'm now showing a combined view. Who can tell me what's being impacted at Starling Bank and what is the root cause? So Miguel, Moses, Jackson, need your help. Just imagine that you're in the operations center at Starling Bank and someone wants to know what's being impacted. And all you have is this dashboard right here. Any thoughts? All right, yep. So as you can see with this one right here, and I think Ariel got it right. I saw someone else responded here on bill pay issues. The problem at Starling Bank is that customers are having a problem with the bill pay process. So you're able to see the context of what is being impacted. And then if you look at this other dashboard, the root cause is this pay lookup API. This is what observability is about. So it's not just about displaying monitors that are monitoring the health of performance without having the context. Observability gives you the context and it helps you to identify the root cause. All right. So if you don't have good observability or good monitoring, it can be costly. So as Luis mentioned yesterday, it was costly with that AWS issue. Poor observability can also open you up to cyber attacks, system downtime, and software bugs, all very costly. There are also some hidden costs as well. So just imagine that you're an employee and you're working for a company that's always having system issues. I'm sure that with that AWS issue yesterday, there were a lot of people that had to be in calls all day, and I'm sure was tiring for some, and it gets frustrating. So it does lead to employee morale issues. And then if you're focused now on fixing issues and bringing the system up, then it also slows innovation because you cannot focus on innovation. All right, so some of the traditional monitoring limits. So as you could see from the activity that we did in the beginning, with traditional monitoring, you're not really able to understand the context of what's being impacted. You might get alerts, but they're really reactive. So you're reacting to low CPU and then, adding to it. You also have limited visibility. It's insufficient to predict, so you can't really prevent the issues. It's fragmented. You're only getting part of the picture. And then also the metrics are inflexible. And this is with traditional monitoring. And this is why there's a big push now towards observability.
Yeah, let me explain you what is monitoring is all about. So, I mean, in simple way, monitoring is nothing but continuously watching our systems to detect issues as soon as they happen. Like there will be three stages in this. Those are define, collect, and display. In define stage, we define the metrics like which are critical, which are not critical, and we will keep some thresholds on them to check the various performances. In the second stage, we collect all these metrics, and then we will try to join them in a dashboard to give us some views to understand more about them. And then in final level, which is display, we will check these dashboards to indicate whether uh, they are running as expected or not. So let's think we are driving a car. When we are looking for something, like when we are looking in the dashboard, we might see something like check engine light is turned on. We know that something is wrong with the engine, but we don't know why is happened. So we can know there is some alert, but we don't understand what's behind it. So that's all monitoring is about. And coming to the observability, now things will go into detail. We will understand why it's wrong, why some issue is happened in more detailed way. So it's the ability to understand why something is failing instead of just knowing something is happening in the backend. So in this observability, there is like three stages, which are map, correlate, and investigate, where in the map stage, we understand and visualize various connections between each matrix to understand whole picture of the issue. And then in the next stage, where we correlate all these metrics using the three pillars of the observability, which are logs, metrics, and traces, to get the holistic context around the incident or issue. And then finally, in the investigate stage, we will get deep insights about this, and we can easily understand the root cause behind it using this map and correlate uh, stages, and we can easily resolve the issue in a timely manner. So think of the same car dashboard, but now you are shown the full diagnostic view of your engine instead of just showing the check engine light. So you'll understand something is wrong in the engine, in which part, like a fuel leakage pipe or something overheating in the electric circuit. Then you can pinpoint the issue and you can easily detect and resolve the issue properly if you got the whole view of the dashboard. So that's all about observability.
Thank you.
Moving forward.
All right, so I just want to pause for a second. I have to put on my professor hat just to check to make sure. Does everyone pretty much have a good understanding of the difference between monitoring and observability? Does anyone have a question about it? All right, so what you'll find in a typical organization, and I'm going to focus on the middle here, is like a lot of companies have a lot of different monitoring tools. So this isn't uncommon for most organizations. You may have tools that look at the infrastructure, look at the desktops, look at the database. Some may look at the cloud infrastructure, networking, cyber tools. You might have log monitoring tools and application performance monitoring tools. When you put all of those tools together, you try to create observability by taking from those three pillars that Raja mentioned. So these tools all together will produce metrics. An example of a metric could be number of errors per a certain given time, or measuring things like CPU or memory. Logs are also important because logs that your application produce can tell you specifically what's wrong with the application or the underlying infrastructure. One of the biggest additions to observability and the pillars are the ability to trace. So a lot of these tools will do metrics and logs, but they don't do the tracing. Tracing is great because if you have a multi-step process, tracing allows you to understand the components of that process at each step and to be able to understand at which step in the process there was a failure and why. It's looking at metrics and logs at each step of that process. So typically for your suite of different monitoring tools, these are fed into dashboards and you can get alerts. It also allows you to do something to be able to utilize AI to adjust your operations. And then you typically have run books so that you understand how to handle each of the alerts that might be generated from the system. And all of this enables you and enables your business to perform. Any questions about this? All right, so moving forward. So what we have talked about here is observability pillars. So just in a basic sense, the metrics tell you what is wrong, traces tell you where if you have multiple steps, and logs tell you why something is wrong. So metrics help you understand the system pulse, what is wrong. So again, and this was taken from Datadog. This is one of the most popular observability tools. An example of a metric could be CPU utilization, memory usage, number of errors, response time. These are measurable things we call metrics in observability. So traces, again, if you have a multi-step process, and this is taken from Dynatrace, another very popular observability tool. As you can see here, it showing a multi-step process here, you're able to see where within that process there was a failure. So this again is very key to having observability. A lot of tools may do metrics, they may do logs, they might do both, but in order for it to be considered an observability tool, it has to have all three of those pillars: metrics, traces, and logs. And then the most popular log monitoring tool considered Splunk. Again, logs really help you to understand what is wrong with your applications. They're time-stamped events that may have error codes that help you to determine the root cause of your issue. So that answers the why. All right, so it's a journey for most companies to end up having very intelligent observability. So for some, you might not have any visibility at all. And that would be the level 0 that you see there. Then as you start to add monitoring, you look at the different components and understand that these systems individually are failing. A level 2 you actually start to understand why there's issues. You're able to debug. It helps you to get to root cause more quickly. But full stack observability allows you to connect the data from all of the different layers. So you understand from a database standpoint, networking standpoint, infrastructure standpoint, application standpoint, you're connecting your whole stack and understanding how all of them talk to each other and monitoring that using the metrics, traces, and logs that we talked about. And then intelligent observability is taking that full stack observability and acting upon it so that rather than have a human, for example, restart a server or add additional memory, you can use AI to do that. And that's the level ultimately that most organizations want to reach. And I'm not going to go through all of these, but these are some examples of tools that are out there. So again, most companies will have a suite of database tools for monitoring, networking, desktop infrastructure, cloud monitoring, and observability tools. And then some of the leaders. So these observability tools have to have the three pillars that we talked about, the metrics, traces, and logs. So as you can see, Dynatrace and Datadog are the leaders in the market here in terms of their feature set. And this is according to Gartner. So Gartner is an organization that objectively supposed to monitor the features of different applications. They do that by serving the existing customer base. So as you can see, Dynatrace and Datadog are at the top there. Splunk is also in the leaders quadrant. So out of all of these tools, Splunk together combined with App Dynamics actually merge under one company have the biggest share of observability customers.
Yeah, before moving forward, we got few questions in our chat box.
Okay, all right, let's answer those.
Is observability the next level of monitoring?
It is. So observability is a version of monitoring. It's an enhanced version of monitoring. So not all monitoring is observability, but without monitoring, you cannot have observability, if that makes sense.
And next question is, are there any tools for this, or is it a manual analytical process?
So there definitely are tools. So if we go back to can we go back one slide? Oh, to the tool slide. All right, awesome. So if you look all the way to your right, these are some tools out here that provide observability. Now, a lot of companies will feed this information to also other tools that can provide analytics. So most companies are going to have a whole suite of different monitoring tools, and some may feed that to ServiceNow, where you can also do some analytics within ServiceNow, or some may use some of the tool suites that we have listed here in the last column. The challenge with trying to use all of your applications, because if you're in a company that has hundreds of applications, it can get quite costly to use these top tier observability tools. So most companies will take their whole suite of different tools that may look at their database, networking, desktop, and infrastructure and cloud, and feed that into a system to help to understand and prevent issues. Any other questions?
That's it. And moving on to the case study. So we have did some research to know how Uber has used observability and then what they have implemented to solve their issue. So we all know Uber runs and interacts millions of rides and then other services daily. And then this is backed by 5,000 plus microservices that is those are running in the background. So when the company is growing and growing, they have faced some issues in performance and then costs because of this massive scale. So they have implemented a solution by combining these observability pillars, which are logs, metrics, and tracing, with the platform called continuous profiling, in order to solve the issue that are being faced at the massive scale. With this, they have got the result of around 30% decreased allocation overhead, and that has saved around 1 million plus dollars every year in the infrastructure. Through this, they have also achieved 95% reduction in the latency and then the app crashes, so which has resulted a good amount of improvement over their issue. Moving forward, so this is the detailed understanding of how the process was implemented in the Uber. So initially, they have combined metrics, logs, and traces from each microservices and gathered all these three pillars and joined with a profiling platform called Pyroscope. What this does is that it will combine and tell us the story why something is going wrong, and it will also pinpoint exact location inside a function or a code block that is causing this issue. All this is happening in real time, and they're continuously monitoring everything through Grafana Cloud. And the employees, when issue is arrive, when something is got up, employees will get a ping through these flame visualizations, and then they can pinpoint easily which function is blocking the causing this issue, and they can easily transform that and resolve it in a timely manner. So they will also check what is happening before, without implementing, what is the impact before profiling and what is the impact after profiling. And they have observed massive results in the improvement and the app crashing, reduction in the app crashes that has increased their revenue in the at their massive scale. Yes.
All right. So, any questions about the presentation? So one of the things, if you can just look there to see if there are any questions.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
What is the significant relation have you learned from implementing observability real projects?
Can you restate the question? How do you implement observability as a project? Was that the question?
Yeah. The real
Okay.
projects.
Yeah, so to implement, and that's a good question. To implement observability, you need to start with the basics first. So you need to have an understanding first of the business. So nothing technical. Like what is the application enabling from a business perspective? And you break it out. So let's say in the example that we covered there, that Starling Bank had a lot of different business processes as a bank. One of them being bill pay, for example, one of them being to check your balance. So you go through and you understand what is the application on enabling from a business perspective. You then need to look at the architecture. How is the architecture, the technical architecture now enabling you, the business, to be able to perform those specific business transactions that you would have listed out? And then from a monitoring perspective, after you understand the architecture, how everything is connected, you then go through the process in a project. And I like the way that you use the word project in terms of step by step monitoring those different components of the application. And so they have tools that can help you do that, different observability tools that we covered there in the slide. And then in some organizations, you might not be able to afford those very expensive observability tools. So you may need to monitor these applications and business processes using separate tools. and then feed them to another application that can help to do that correlation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
We have a couple of questions
Mhm.
here. So these observability tools consolidate the indicators from other monitoring tools. Now, do they add value to these monitoring tools, or do they combine them? Do they uncover insights?
Okay, yeah, so they do provide insights. They have the ability to look at other monitoring tools, but they also have the ability to do the monitoring by themselves. So there are a lot of features that we did not cover, but for example, one feature that all of those top tier application monitoring tools can do, it can actually monitor your infrastructure. It can look at that. It can also do something that's called a synthetic test. So for example, going back to the example with PayBill, if you have an application, you don't have to wait on a customer to complain about the pay bill. In that case, it was a problem with the pay bill API. You can, on a frequent basis, attempt to pay a bill with a synthetic test, and thereby you know that if your synthetic test fails, that you have a problem with pay bill. So there are a lot of features that those observability tools can do on their own in terms of monitoring.
Coming to the next one, what are the most common mistakes organizations make when assuming that traditional monitoring is enough?
All right, so very, very good question. Um, Most organizations wait until they're having issues. So people get very excited about developing applications, and yeah, this application is going to be so robust, we don't need to worry about monitoring. Our customers are going to be so happy with the features, and sometimes your customers aren't thinking about it either. They're like, hey, let me just give you money to build something that's cool. And then when there are issues, that's when people want to talk about observability. It really needs to be a thought as you're building the application to build good observability, to make sure that it's going to be monitored properly, and you're going to be able to prevent and detect issues. So that is a common mistake.
And then, what advice would you give to companies that are just starting to implement observability in their infrastructure?
That's a good question. I would recommend, without necessarily signing up for it, engaging some of the leaders of observability, and a lot of them will give you a free evaluation of how you're doing with observability. And they'll, believe it or not, you're able to get a lot of, free education from them. So just thinking in Santo Domingo, there, I'm not quite sure what vendor contacts. Who was that that asked the question?
It's Franny.
Franny. If you're interested, I can pass to Ariel some of the contacts, observability contacts that I have here. I can share with you, and you can start there with asking them for some introductory stuff on observability as well. Hey, Julio, you had a question, sir?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Professor, for forwarding me the invite to this great session. I don't know if you touch on it, but I remember that you're saying I think between slide number 4 and 5 you mentioned that now we are pushing for observability and having monitoring systems, let's say like that, in different companies, right? But I mean, knowing from a business perspective and knowing how the narrative in the past have gone, when you guys from IT and cybersecurity came along saying we need a budget as huge as the budget for the Dominican Republic to build infrastructure and stuff like that, and the kickbacks that you guys used to receive, right? Saying like, can we just upgrade what we have, and because of that, now we have corporates that are running with systems and operating systems that are legacy, and that they don't have support. So I want to ask you, from your experience, how that narrative has changed from what I just exposed to our current reality, where like we experienced yesterday with the AWS outage and the impact that it had on the customer experience, right? How does that narrative are you seeing that higher leadership and C-level executives are more open to invest in technology and security and monitoring the system?
I am definitely, definitely. There's just been too many times, and not specific to just my company, but I've been around where it was hard to get the investment, especially on a blue sky day. But the moment that there starts to be issues, and no one thinks about carrying an umbrella unless it's raining or whatever. But I always, and maybe it's a good trait, maybe it's not. I'm just gonna be real with you, but I'm the type of person that will quickly say, "I told you so," and I think people remember that. So they don't want to hear that again. So there have been too many cases where um, I've tried to help out the push that, hey, it's important to monitor. And then all it takes is just one example. And people are like, okay, you know what? Wayne was right. And I don't want to hear it. So just like, okay, let me sign up. So I'm able to draw based upon that. And then the cost of an outage, a lot of people don't think about it when they're setting up the application, but the cost of an outage, it can be very, very costly. So you need to factor that in as well. But I think for the most part, like people are very on board with observability being needed. And then observability is a big enabler for AI. And in the world we live in right now, AI is very needed and hot as well.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. You're welcome, Julio, and thank you for joining. So among the three
Hello, I
pillars,
have another question.
oh, sure.
Yes, a fundamental phase is to establish goals for each indicator. I suppose,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, for the results, I need to have a goal, okay, to see if the process is out of the performance. Do the tools allow you to establish these goals
They
to
do.
compare with the performance, or is a manual or Excel process that we have to do outside the tool?
So very good question, Adiel. So the tool allows you to do a couple of things at least. So the tool allows you, if you want to look at response time, for example, I'll take that one metric first, but you can do the same thing with multiple metrics. Let's say that you have different business transactions, right? The tool allow you to establish a baseline on an average that, hey, this business transaction for the past 30 days runs at an average for 2 seconds. Let's just say you have a business transaction that runs for 2 seconds. If there's a significant deviation from that, the tool is able to generate an alert. So you might want to say that, okay, it's 2 seconds on the average, but now today you're noticing 3 seconds. Maybe we'll make that yellow. And then it's 4 seconds, we'll make it red. And you can adjust that. Also, if you are working with your business and your development team, they can also give you guidelines. But what I found is a lot of times people are unsure, and the baselines at least help you to set up something, and then you can improve once you've had those baselines as well.
Ronald had a question.
Oh, sure. And I saw a question in the chat. I just want to answer because I think I was posted much earlier.
Among the three pillars,
Mhm.
metrics, trace, and logs, which one is the most challenging to implement and effectively? Why?
Okay, so I would say traces. That's where a lot of the monitoring tools fall short, and that's why they're not considered observability. So tracing involves having metrics and logs at each level. It's really allowing you though to go through a multi-step process and track all of that at each level. And Ronald, you had a question?
Yeah. What cultural or leadership changes are necessary for observability to become part of the organizational DNA?
So culturally, I think a lot of it is not just being concerned with adding new bells and whistles.
Hmm.
I think it's important that as you're planning your work, that stability and observability be considered a high feature and something of importance. And it really helps if you can partner with the business, because a lot of times it's the business giving these requirements to IT and saying that, hey, I need you to build this. It needs to be red. It needs to be a square. It needs to do this or whatever. But they need to mention in those requirements, okay, and like, hey, I also need you to be able to predict issues, and hey, let me know what it's going to take to do that. So you have to be able to work with the business. And then if your business isn't having that kind of discussion, then it has to start on the IT side saying that, hey, this is great. Hey, in order for me to build this box, to build it red, to add this, I'm also going to need to invest in this. So it's really, developing that partnership with the business and IT to achieve observability.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question from Darwin. What criteria do you consider essential when selecting a good observability tool or platform?
So I think it really depends on the company, but what I would recommend, and not just for observability, you have to lay out um, what's called, and I know Ariel and Roger are familiar with this because I covered it in their class, an RFI. So you have to come up with objective criteria to select a tool. So not just observability. So let's say you come up with 5 different things that you want to look at. Let's say you want to judge how well they capture metrics. How easy is it to set up the tool? How well do they look at log monitoring? How well do they do tracing? You look and you then would send that out to some of the different tool providers, and you would ask them to demo how they do this and score it based upon that. Now, cost also comes into play. So there'd be some negotiation with costs. And then sometimes in your corporate environment, you as a company may have partnerships with some of these different tool providers. So that can also sway, your decision. So it really depends as the answer on your company.
Uh, there is a question from Ariel. He likes.
I
All
think
right.
that's Adiel the father.
I think he did that already when he
Okay.
raised the
Okay,
hand, but
yes.
I'll take over and ask another question also.
Mhm.
So something that was mentioned throughout the presentation, and I think it's nowadays focus is having intelligent systems. So intelligence in observability, I see it very enticing in the sense that even though we could have logs, there's some human in the loop that should interpret the logs and give them a reason behind it when they are complex enough to do so. So we could connect large language models, ChatGPT, Claude, etc., to have a more easily interpretable report about, all right, this is happening, and it is easier for the stakeholders, let's say, to know, all right, this is what's happening to the system. But my question is around all of these LLMs at the end of the day, they have they're stochastic systems. They respond through probability. It's not something solely rule-based. So what's your experience with that? Is it a good practice nowadays, or is it still a work in progress, having LLMs interpret what's happening and build them on top of this observability tools, or we're still at the phase in which we trust the more classical machine learning models and we're just testing out with LLMs? What's the stage right now? I assume that's the big players that are already using it, but is it reliable enough nowadays?
Yeah, so at my company, we're not in that last phase yet of using AI to interpret the observability alerts. We're just beginning that right now, so that's soon to come. But I'm sure there are other companies that may be doing that in some fashion.
There's also another question from Luis. He had to get out of the meeting, but he wanted to ask, all right, how can I realize if the problem is with the application or the infrastructure when we have poor performance, let's say in web services?
Yeah, so that's one of the beautiful things about an observability tool. So not just a monitoring tool that may look at each one of those separately. Observability is really connecting all of the dots, and that helps you to determine what the root cause is. And that's once you enable understanding the map, how each of those dependencies between the web services, the infrastructure, and it enables your different business transactions. And then you have monitors set up with each of those using the metrics, traces, and logs. That will help you to pinpoint where the issue is coming from.
Perfect. Do we have more questions? Let's see. I think no. So, all right, we have more questions.
There is a question from Darwin. What practical signs indicate that an organization is facing an observability gap?
So good question. So one of the things that my team developed is a dashboard that shows all of our hundreds of applications. And I look at three different things. I look at how critical the application is, how often that application has been going down, and what level of monitoring exists for that application. So if I have a lot of applications going down, or one particular application is going down and I see very little monitoring, hey, that's an opportunity. If I have an application that isn't so critical, it's not going down a lot, and it has maybe a little monitoring, maybe that's not so critical. So I look at all of those different three factors to help me see where observability is needed.
All right. So let's give a virtual round of applause to Professor Cole and Raja for this amazing presentation. It was great. I want to thank him personally. I remember some months ago when we were talking at the classroom, and I approached you, Professor, to just let you know that we were interested in having this sort of presentation because the information exchange, and especially across countries, across cultures, something that builds great products and relationships. So thank you, Professor. Thank you, Raja, for your time, for sharing all of this. And in name of other person, we are also thank you for taking your time, both of you, and sharing about observability and how we can start marking some points and goals and having not only systems that can alert if they fail, but why they fail. So thank you, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you
All
for your
right, so
time also.
definitely gracias por la oportunidad.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right.
All right. I'll also do it in Spanish just for the rest of the attendees. Muchas gracias a todos los que participaron en esta presentación y le hemos dado las gracias al profesor Wayne y a Raya por haber presentado el tema de observabilidad, gran tema. Hemos aprendido cómo no solamente basta con tener alertas cuando el sistema falla, sino el saber el por qué, el tener una historia de trazos de qué es lo que está pasando en nuestros sistemas. Y es la historia de cómo el profesor en su clase, los últimos días, hace unos meses, yo me la acerqué para poder crear esta oportunidad y la importancia que existe entre el intercambiar información entre países, entre culturas, para seguir fortaleciendo nuestros sistemas. Entonces, gracias a todos por su tiempo y espero que tengan un feliz resto del día.
Well, thanks, Wayne,
Appreciate it. Thank you.
fabulous time, Raja, fabulous time. La Asociación of Software Producer from DR are very excited with this moment. Okay, thanks to you.
All right, thank you. My
Thank
pleasure.
Mhm.
All
Thank
right,
you all.
take care.
Appreciate it. Thank you.